we jumped
Good
into a
morning.
conversation already, and yeah, but let's start with embracing the moment that we have here right now, listening to each other, exploring what wants to be explored today in conversation, and also whoever hears this at any given point to welcome them into this little circle.
Yes,
How
a
does that
safe
sound? A
place
safe place,
to be.
exactly. So I jumped right in before I started the recording to with the idea of sharing a topic that is a bit what I would still consider not mainstream approach to well-being, although my indicators that I'm watching are suggesting it's on the brink of potentially becoming mainstream, as a broadening of the menu that's available. It does not have to judge any's approach of how to embrace well-being in one's own life. It really just broadens the menu. And that has, for me, been a huge freeing aspect that we can grow beyond the do's and don'ts that come from the outside and instead really touch base with our inner knowing of what's needed at any given moment. And in your world of supporting well-being and your particular approach, I know from our conversation so far that this being in the moment with the wisdom that's present in the room, not just from the practitioner, but from the collaboration between practitioner and patient slash client, that's when the magic can happen. The magic that's not magic in the sense of unfounded. It's in the sense of some things go beyond the words our current culture has developed to explain things. And we might, who knows, never have human words to fully capture. And maybe that's a start. When you work with people who come to you, I would imagine there's plenty that happens that defies or expands beyond words of our human language. How true is that?
It's very true. It's very true. Let me first start by saying I know that people cannot see you, only I can. And the sun is coming in and hitting you in such a beautiful way that I can't see half of your face. I can only see the darkness, the shadowed. So it's really such a profound image of what we are speaking, because you only know, what you can see, what you're used to, what you're told. And on the opposite end, which is right now just a ball of wax, you're not formed, you're not influenced. So it's the yin and yang of what we are actually talking about. And so it's beautiful.
Oh, thank you for picking up on that. And since we see both each other and ourselves in this Zoom conversation, I'm becoming aware of that as you are describing it, and I find it so profound that our eyes are more easily drawn to the shadowed parts, and to see the illuminated parts that are also just as true but not as concrete in form. It takes a training of the eye to, and the senses beyond the five senses that we've conditioned so far, to fully appreciate the light that's there just the same.
Right. There's a bit of fear in the unknown. So I'm confident that you have the other half of your face. But if we were speaking about a dock on a lake,
Yeah.
and you could only see this far, but I have, let me share an experience with you.
Yeah.
My parents had a boat when I was growing up, a 40-foot cabin boat. And I loved driving it. It just gave me such freedom and clarity of where I should go and can go and wanted to go. And we were out at night fishing, and it was a beautiful night, the stars, and all of a sudden, fog came in. Now, I know just before the fog got there that I had open sea. There was not a thing in front of me. I saw it, I knew it, but the fog stopped my belief. The fog said, no, I have an island in front of you. I could actually see trees. And I got in such a fight with my father because he said, no, there's nothing, just go. And I said, no, there's a tree in front of me. I cannot go.
Yeah.
So the practical part of me 10 minutes ago knew it was safe, knew I could carry on without an issue. But the fog brought the fear, the questioning, is it true? So now my mind got involved with, okay, yes, it is. No, it's not. Yes, well, there we are fighting with myself of the safety of continuing on. So the dark, sometimes the formed is better for you to really believe and reference in your beliefs. But the shadow, the light part that is illuminated to no form, to the ultimate unknown, is where the fear is. Because that's what our language, that's what our experience is, that's what we have been shown all of our lives. So to have an alternative, to have an added menu piece, it's frightening. It's not something that you've experienced, but you're willing to, because there's an alternate route that is possible. Embrace that fear.
As I'm listening to you, it becomes so clear. We live in a world of contrast. And often we question, why is certain contrast needed? Particularly when it feels overwhelmingly heavy. And as you pointed out with the boat example, and thank you for sharing that, because it's, even if somebody has never been on a boat, but imagine being in a car and suddenly you're in a whiteout, or flying a plane. And I remember I used to travel to Austria for work quite a bit, and landing in the Inn Valley, or taking off in the Inn Valley, which is huge mountains on each side, and the often it was rainy and cloudy, and the pilot seemed to know where they were going. And as a passenger, to release the fear of the mountain is right ahead of us, and to instead trust that they know where they're going. They've done this a million times, and
the confidence to navigate where they're going.
Yes.
And the knowledge of that navigation.
Right. And the profound question is, how can we make our mind our friendly ally in those moments, rather than the tormenting, doubt swirling machine it can turn into if we give power to that.
Right. I'm certain that there's, and I'm certain that I have done it since in my life too, because I have more tools, I have more management of my state, of my beliefs, and I still think that I would still truly hesitate. There's a lot of trust that has to be put forth. There has to be beliefs that you don't know. We always speak of that. My big lesson in life is that there are two ways to do something, or there are other ways to do something. So that has to come in to really be enforced on, okay, this is just another way. This is a new way for me, but not for them
Right.
who know.
Right.
So
A huge realization for me in the last few years has been our mind is such a powerful computer. Uh, and to with that recognize that a computer is fed with data, and its job is to sort, organize, and make data accessible as it's called for.
right.
And in that capacity, our logical mind is incredible. Yet brings up the question, where's the data coming from? And who is on the keyboard calling for the data to be shown in any given moment? And I think there is another aspect that we have to some degree overlooked thus far as a humanity, that there is a, where does the thought come from to suddenly research a certain topic, or the idea to search where is being so active in the world of art now, where does that come from? I often find myself writing a poem, and I stare at the finished piece and I'm just flabbergasted where that came from. It's not something that I logically craft and then put on paper or on the screen. It is for me a process of almost stepping back and just being curious about what wants to flow through my fingers, and then to witness and observe and fully take in and appreciate what just happened.
Yes.
And I'm sure when you work with clients and can sense there is a deeper story behind a frozen shoulder, and to allow for that wisdom of what is hidden behind it to either come forth or not, depending on if your person on the table is willing to reveal it at that moment to themselves, and possibly to you. Those are the moments that for me are awe-inspiring.
Yes.
Aren't they?
First of all, it's such an honor to be with someone in that space. It's to experience someone's emotion or someone's release. It's just, sometimes I just hold it. There's no reaction or response that I could possibly have, just to hold it.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons that I wanted to take coaching 10 years into massage, that I wanted to be able to have the tools to move people through that space and through the process that they're experiencing through their muscles. So that is, it's become very, very intimate. Yeah. If intimacy is on a loving level of just being able to draw out their feelings, to be able to let them be safe, and trust, and to know that often they don't even know what's going to come up. And so to take the fear and put it aside for both of us, because I have experienced some things that brought a lot of fear up in me. But in that situation, it's not mine. It's not, that can come out after. That I can take care of that later. But the experience of my person is what has to be really cared for and nurtured, and just know that they know that it'll be stirred together. It will be what something both needs. So,
you know, an image just popped up as I'm listening to you. I see two people looking at a photo album. You know, a photo album that shares the most personal moments of one's life.
yes.
And to be invited to have that experience with somebody as they tap into that memory.
Yes.
And as you said, it's a privilege to be invited into that moment without
Yes.
the agenda, even though your intention is to relieve pain and to bring forth healing with your patient, but to at the same time be free of the agenda to decide what kind of relief is right for them at that moment.
Absolutely.
So it becomes such a quiet presence and offering, and how brilliant of you to seek modalities that potentially can help not just the physical skeleton and muscular being, but also this logical mind that is so thirsty for answers, for data, in order to sort existing data in potentially a new way. How true is that?
So I brought something else to the menu as I added coaching.
Yeah.
And I have such a strong belief that it takes a team. It takes a full team to move and to grow. I had a client last week that his low back went out, and I had many things for it to help him, many things.
Yeah.
But until he could get the inflammation down, there wasn't a lot of movement of healing.
Yeah.
So it took medicine to do that. And the profound part of that is that was last week, and this week I experienced the same pain, the same weakness, the same inflammation, the same loss of strength and mobility.
Yeah.
So I knew the things that I had experienced and told this client that I could do, but I also knew that I needed the medicine to decrease the inflammation so that I could continue with the exercises and the stretches and the movements that I know will put us back into our optimal function. So the team that added to the menu, these are the things that you gather and give you strength and give you the knowledge that, okay, so it's number 3. So I need to go down on and seek that in healing. So
it brings two things for us. One, to give ourselves permission to tap into the full menu as it is applicable. And in order to do so, it takes the awareness of, for me, it keeps coming up that pain is a messenger. It's not meant to torture us. It's meant as a messenger to say, hey, this needs attention. Something is off here. What would you like to choose? And then we can tap into a menu. So somebody has explained to me once, persistent pain is like the old-fashioned doorbell that gets stuck. You know, this push-button doorbell that just gets stuck and keeps ringing and ringing and ringing. And sometimes it takes to, okay, the doorbell is ringing. Okay, there's nobody standing there, but I hear it ringing. I got the message. So now I can disconnect the pain. I can stop the pain. So I can come into a quiet place where I can then sort out my process from there. And I think that's what you're mentioning was sometimes there are the measures at hand, like medicine, to kind of disconnect the wire to a point to say, okay, I got the message, but I had let it ring and ring and ring to some extent where I could not hear anything else anymore. And so now I just need to completely reset, regroup, and go from there. And the piece that I wanted to touch on is I think I've mentioned it before. For me personally, uh, there's a place in, for pharmaceuticals in my world for just that at times. When, you have pushed through a day and ignored the back pain that started 3 hours ago and thought you had to finish what you were doing. By the point, 3 hours later, you can barely move. And
Exactly.
everything seems frozen. And in order to unfreeze and regroup and make better choices, something needs to be disconnected. And because for me personally, pharmaceuticals are not always the answer, not the satisfying answer. I've been searching for alternatives, and one of the things that I've been experimenting with and have had profound results with are working with frequencies. And we talked about it last week of um, it sounds simple, but it is actually quite eye-opening to use frequency to loosen up a congestion, to use frequency and frequency comes through many measures. It can be audible, it can be visible. Everything is energy and comes just in different forms on the menu. One of the things I have had really profound results with is rife frequencies and binaural frequencies that are audible offers. And what I'm learning to understand is that at any given point we are vibrating at a certain frequency as an overall being, and different parts, I would imagine, of our being show different frequential displays is the word I'm getting, whatever that means. And if we literally tune into that current baseline frequency, which you do intuitively as you are working with a patient, to kind of meet ourselves where we are, no matter where that is, totally discombobulated or very balanced, peaceful. It's all just one spectrum. And then to walk with that either discombobulated or less discombobulated for a bit and just be empathetic to where we are, to understand the story of why are you so upset? What's going on within you that creates all this pain in your ankle? To hear the story that wants to be told, and then we can shift the energy to what story do we want to tell from here on.
That's really powerful.
What are your thoughts there?
That is very powerful. Have you experienced the Tibetan bowls?
Yes.
And the tuning forks they have to place in different places on the body?
I actually have worked with a naturopathic physician for years, and who among other things was offering acupuncture, and she was using tuning forks for certain issues in order to do exactly that. And her background is not just medicine but also music, which is so beautiful of a connection that it's really about for me, well-being is now so much more about retuning our instrument so it can bring forth its most beautiful and joyous music.
Yes.
And not to make it wrong for being out of tune at times. Forgiveness and knowing there's value in recognizing when we're out of tune, because there's a message behind that. There's a story behind that wants to be recognized, right?
Yes. That's a very peaceful place. Thank you for sharing that.
Yes. Being almost half an hour into our conversation, did you want to kind of capture any thought, any impression that you would like to kind of guide us toward the end of our session here?
I'm just overwhelmed with gratitude for your wisdom, for your strength, for your open soul. And I am grateful and thankful and just to be in this presence of you. So thank you.
Thank you for being the co-witness of this inner knowledge that we have. Each of us has. And the access that each of us has is unique. And that's when that is allowed to come forth, our world as individuals becomes so much richer. And so thank you for being willing to bring forth your access points and observations and insights to enrich this. Thank you. I'll close the recording.